Today, we're talking about a metal that's, well, it's everywhere, but we barely give it a second thought. It's a true unsung hero aluminum.
All right, let me ask you something. What does a giant airplane, soaring miles up in the sky, have in common with the soda can you might be holding, or even a massive gleaming skyscraper? I mean, they couldn't be more different, right? But they all share this one secret ingredient. Yep, it's aluminum. That's the common thread. It weaves through pretty much everything in our modern world, from the super simple stuff to the truly magnificent.
So, what's the big deal with aluminum? What makes it so special? Well, honestly, you could say it has a set of superpowers. Let's unpack what those are. Okay, first up, it is so light. I mean, think about it like this. If you have a block of steel, and right next to it, a block of aluminum that's the exact same size, the aluminum would weigh only about a third of what the steel does. That's a huge difference, and that one property is an absolute game changer.
But don't let that lightness fool you. It's not weak at all. Actually, it's the opposite. When you mix it with a few other elements, that's what we call an alloy, it becomes incredibly strong enough to handle a whole lot of pressure and stress. On top of that, it's super flexible. The technical word is malleable, which just means you can shape it into almost anything. You can press it, roll it super thin, like paper-thin foil, or you can form it into really complex parts for buildings and machines. And here's another one of its superpowers. It doesn't really rust. The moment it hits the air, it forms this tiny, invisible protective layer all over itself. It's like it builds its own shield against corrosion. That's why it lasts for so long. So you've got this weird paradox, right? It's incredibly light, but it's also surprisingly strong. And that combination, that's the magic trick. That's what unlocks its real power and why it's such a go-to material for so many industries. So how does it go from just a chunk of metal to, all the things we use? Well, it's a whole industrial process. The raw metal alloy gets shaped, treated, and finished until it becomes the product you see on the shelf. It's pretty amazing, really.
Okay, so now that we know its powers, let's look at how it actually builds the world around us. You're probably interacting with aluminum way more than you realize. It's kind of hiding in plain sight everywhere. I mean, just start in your kitchen. That roll of foil, that's its flexibility, right there. And the soda can, that's a perfect example. It's strong enough to protect what's inside, but it also won't corrode and mess up your drink. But it's not just for small stuff, not by a long shot. Aluminum is a huge player in construction. I mean, it is literally building the world we live in. Think about any modern building. You see those sleek window frames or those shiny outer walls, the facades? A lot of the time, that's aluminum. And why? Well, it's the perfect mix. Strong enough to hold things together, light enough to work with easily, and it's not going to fall apart after a few years of rain and sun. I mentioned that word alloy a minute ago, and it's really important. Think of it this way. Pure aluminum is great, but an alloy is like aluminum, but upgraded. By adding just a tiny bit of other metals, you can tweak its properties. You can make it way stronger or even more resistant to corrosion for whatever job you need it to do. All right, let's switch gears and talk about moving around, because if there's one place where aluminum is the absolute star of the show, it's transportation. Take your car, for example. More and more parts, like the engine or the body panels, are being made from aluminum. And the reason is simple. A lighter car needs less fuel to move. It's just a straightforward way to make cars more efficient. And it's the exact same idea with trains. If you make the train cars lighter, it takes less energy to pull them down the track. The whole system just becomes more efficient. And then, of course, you have the airplane. This is where aluminum basically became a legend. There is just no way modern planes could exist without a material that's both super strong and incredibly light. It just wouldn't work. So it all comes back to that simple, powerful formula we talked about. The reason aluminum is everywhere in transportation? Lightweight plus strong. That combo gives you efficiency, and it gives you performance. It's a win-win. So, okay, we've seen how it's shaped our world so far, but what about where we're headed? Turns out, aluminum is a huge part of the plan for a more sustainable future, too. Just look at clean energy. You know those frames that hold up solar panels? They have to be durable and sit out in the weather for years. That's aluminum. What about the guts of a giant wind turbine? You'll find aluminum in there, too. It's just essential for building the tech that gets us renewable power.
So, when you really step back and take it all in, from the can in your fridge to the plane in the sky to the building you're in right now, you really start to see it. It really is the number one unsung hero of our modern world.
And that kind of leaves us with one big question to think about. We've seen what it can do for how we travel, how we build, and how we create energy. So, looking forward, what's next? What other huge challenges is this seemingly ordinary metal going to help us solve?